What's up, Theologians? It's your boy Dillien Scott. I'm back again for another video. Today, welcome to Finance Friday, hosted by Theology Made Simple. Why make your finances complex when everything in life is simple? Well, if you have been watching, the last 2 episodes have been about God's ownership. And just a kind of a small preview, some things we talked about is how can you submit your time, your resources, and some other things unto God's presence. You have to go back and watch to make sure that you can correct me or you've learned the material. With that being said, today we'll be talking about how can we as God's stewards take care of our responsibility of being proper stewards. Seems like a good topic, huh? I know, because it's something I struggle with and something that God is growing in me as well. Hey, with that being said, let's jump into it. So first, we have to understand that to take responsibility, man, let's sit on that, right? To take responsibility, that means you take on the goods or the consequence. That means you take on the negatives, quote unquote, or the lessons of the consequence as well. Taking responsibility, that's something that as a child I grew up on. I was challenged with. And I still am challenged with taking responsibility, because responsibility, for some reason, it seems like a burden at times, or it can be. But in actuality, it's a blessing. Why? Because it pushes forward. As I tell my little brothers every night, there are 2 important words, love and responsibility. And right, I don't just have them say it. I have them explain it to themselves as well, including to me. Well, love is important because God wants us to. And then also responsibility is important because it keeps us going forward, right? I know for myself that if I know I don't have nothing to do for the day, I can just sit in bed until 2, 3 o'clock, if not longer, and just quote unquote relax and not do nothing. But the beauty about having responsibility is this. It's the fact that it pushes you forward. It pushes you to grow. It stretches you. I don't know if anyone that's been watching it. Have y'all ever seen something that's elastic or something that's stretchable? Once it stretches, it's hard to be stretched. But once you're stretched, you're kind of now expanded. There's a sense of growth that's involved, right? So let's look at these few scriptures about proper responsibility of God's ownership. I'm flashbacking to the last episode. Let's look back at proper responsibility of God's resources and everything else, time. Right? So this scripture is coming from 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 1. It reads like this, NLT. So look at Apollos and me as mere servants of God, of Christ, who have been put in charge of explaining God's mysteries. So I love the part where Paul emphasizes in the scripture that he has been put in charge. Not he has been given ownership, not as he's a dictator, but he has been put in charge of it. So when God sees that, you're managing it. It's your responsibility. It's your responsibility. No one else's. And that's the beauty about God's having responsibility of God's ownership, right? And let's look at another scripture about God's responsibility, about our responsibility, right? That comes from Titus chapter 1, verse 7. A church leader is a manager of God's household. He's a manager of God's household. And I don't know about you all that may have took any type of management courses, but it's a famous acronym called PLOC and regarding management. And it goes like this: planning, leading, organizing, and controlling. Right? These are the 4 component things, or the 4 elements that are needed to manage anything properly. So my thing is, how are you managing your responsibilities? Are you planning them out? Are you being a leader in every circumstance? Are you being a follower as well? Are you organizing things out? Are you demonstrating self-control? That's not something that I can answer for you, but it's something that we can answer together for ourselves. And I'll read the scripture one more time for us. A church leader is a manager of God's household, so he must live a blameless life. He must not be arrogant or quick-tempered. He must not be a heavy drinker, violent, or dishonest with money, right? So having responsibilities comes with responsibilities, right? Requirements, some things that keep us going forward. So that brings us to this topic again. How are we taking care of our responsibilities regarding our resources? Are we planning things out? Are we leading properly? Are we organizing it? And are we demonstrating self-control? And that same concept goes with, hey, well, how are we taking responsibilities regarding our school and work activities? Are we planning things out? Are we leading it? Are we leading in those activities? Are we organizing it? Just let's examine those things, right? And last but not least, we have our resources, school and work activities. How about our time and our talents? Are we taking leadership in those? Are we planning it out? Are we organizing it? Are we demonstrating self-control? What are we doing? And is it taking responsibility? Or who is taking responsibility? Because if it's appointed to you, but you're not doing it, somebody has to take on the responsibility. And God has given us all different responsibilities that we can grow in. And we must have proper stewardship. Because remember, stewardship consists of 4 key components. Submitting to God's ownership, which was last episode. Taking responsibility, which is the current episode. And the next 2 episodes will be over having accountability and also the biblical reward to stewardship. Hey, I didn't forget about you all. So here's a financial fact. Well, I'm a budgeting type of guy. Did you know that a lot of your concerns and a lot of your burdens about, hey, when is this going to get paid? When is that going to get paid? It can be simply solved using a budget. It's fun, huh? Sitting down, putting it on paper or a computer or any type of technology you may like can solve everyday problems and concerns. I know for myself, that's something I fell in love with. I minored in accounting and man, was it fun. It's a learning process though. Something that you can do to help with budgeting if it seems like a struggle. Go by your local bank or Dollar Tree or any type of store you may like to sell envelopes. Create a paper budget or allot an amount for each category. And on each budget, put that amount there. On each envelope, put that amount plus the title of that category and pull out cash out your account for that particular category. And what that would do is once the money goes from the envelope, it's gone. Or gone, depending how you want to, if you want to use Ebonics. Once the finances are gone, then that category is spent. There's no more money that you have for that category. So that leads me, that's today's financial fact. Well, with that being said, remember that to take responsibility means to take action, right? And I want to leave you with this saying, like I tell my brothers every night, there are 2 important words, love and responsibility. Love is the most important one because God wants us to. And responsibility is important because it keeps us going forward. So remember that. And remember, theology made simple. Why make your finances complex when everything in life is simple? We love you and be blessed.